Hello there. Before we get started on today's episode, I'd like to ask a short favor. If you're interested in either of the two books that I have written and am about to release, head on over to my website at theanxioustruth.com/books. There you can learn about both books, one of which is free, and you can get on my mailing list to be notified when each book is released and how you can get it. I would really appreciate that. Okay, let's get rolling. Are we live? Yes, we are live. Okay, everybody. Yay. Hey, guys. Drew here, thatanxietyguy.com. It's been a super long time since I did one of these videos. We're going to have something special today. I'm not alone. I'm with my good friend, Holly Kotze. Is that how you say it, Holly?
It's actually Kotze, but you can say Kotze as well. It's in South African surname.
Yeah, Holly's coming to us all the way via Skype from Majorca. And I'll give you a little background on this. Holly and I met because we were both admins in the panic disorder group on Facebook, and Holly's awesome. I'm telling you guys this right now. Listen to every word she says, because she is like a textbook living walking example of how you do this. If you follow me at all and you hear all the things that I talk about, Holly is actually a textbook example of how you do this. So Holly, tell us a little bit about how we know how we're friends now, but tell us a little bit about, I guess, your story.
Okay, well, thanks for that. So I first suffered from panic attacks, panic disorder when I was 11. I'm 33 now, and I was 11 and I had really bad panic attacks, like top scale stuff, you know. I was off school for like 9 months. It felt like a continuous panic attack that I was in, and I just had the most horrendous time, and I thought I just didn't know what was going on or anything, you know. And yeah, I don't know how much detail to go into, but I basically got myself a little bit better, and I've always like suffered on and off a little bit, and then I don't really know how to sort of like say, but like through my 20s, I still sort of like lived quite adventurously. I decided to not let anxiety sort of get in my way, even though I suffered it very badly still. And so I was kind of like quite a high functioning sort of panic disorder sort of person, and because I was like missing one key piece of information, which I sort of think I now have, and now I'm 33, and in the last couple of years for sure I feel like I've like found that missing piece. And that's not to say I still suffer panic attacks occasionally. I still, not panic attacks, but like anxiety, and I'm currently 5 months pregnant, and at the beginning of this pregnancy, which is my first one, and it's very exciting. But Yay. At the beginning of this, I had a really hard time for about 2 weeks. It seemed like such a long time, but actually looking back on it, it was about 2 weeks of really bad, like where I kind of forgot how to deal with it again. But I'm happy to say that I'm back on track and everything's good.
I think you and I spoke when you first found out you were pregnant, and I remember you struggled a little bit, but in the end, you were a textbook example of like you had been through this, you learned a lot of the techniques, and you understand the concepts, and it all seemed to come back to you right away. So exactly. I think what I'm going to throw out there, and this will be a recurring theme as Holly and I work together on these podcasts, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the key for you has been learning to not try to escape it or avoid it, but to just sort of let it be there. And I will tell everybody listening that Holly is actually a very talented working professional musician. So if you really want to freak out while listening to us talk, imagine that Holly actually makes her money on a stage in front of people performing original music. So it's like the worst possible case. So, you know, I think take a little bit of, I think, inspiration from this awesome human being that we have here with us, because she will help us lead the way. So we are going to start a series today. You may have heard me talk about Dr. Claire Weekes before. She wrote some amazing books. You can find them on Amazon. They're all really cheap. Claire Weekes, Claire, Weekes is Weekes. She was an Australian psychologist, right? She's been gone since, I think, around 1990 or so. Holly, jump in if I'm wrong here, but for me, Claire Weekes set the gold standard by which I judge every other approach to anxiety disorders and panic disorder. She spoke in very simple terms. She did her very best to describe these things as disorders of thought and thinking, and she really, there's a tremendous amount of cognitive therapy overtones in what she wrote, and she's all about understanding what goes on when you're experiencing anxiety and panic, and really the way to best approach it, which is to do completely the opposite of what you think you're supposed to do, to invite it in, to not avoid it, to just let it be there, to learn how to relax and float through it, and just keep doing that and learning to do that with courage and perseverance. So I'm a huge Claire Weeks fan. Holly, I know you are too.
No, me too, yeah.
Yeah, so...
And in fact, when I was really anxious during this pregnancy at the beginning as well, I reread... What gave me the idea to do this podcast is because I reread the piece, Hope and Help for Your Nerves. I've got a very old copy here. And it just all clicked back in. I was just like, oh yeah, I know what I need to do. Like this, it was just so nice to reread it, and it was just so helpful. I was just like, we've got to get this out there, and so more people know about this and can be helped from it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. She's written a few books, Peace from Nervous Suffering. There's a bunch of them. We'll go through them at some point, I guess. But this one, Hope and Help for Your Nerves, this is the one I was telling Holly the other day. After I suffered my very first panic attack, which was way back in 1986, before a lot of you listening were probably even freaking born, I did go see a psychologist twice, and in the second visit, he gave me that book. I read the book in about 4 or 5 hours, maybe 6 hours. I'm a fast reader, and it's a short book. And honestly, had almost no problems with panic. I still had panic and anxiety, but it dissipated quickly once I read the book, understood what she was saying, and actually started to use the technique. So I know that not everybody will have that experience, but I think if you've been struggling and you're not sure how to do this stuff and you're not sure how to put into play the things that I talk about a lot, the Claire Weeks books are a great, great place to start. So we're going to go through Hope and Help for Your Nerves, Holly and I together, chapter by chapter. So every episode of this little partnership will be another chapter of the book. And today we're going to start with chapter 1. So Holly, why don't you talk a little bit about who Claire Weeks was and kind of what she did. We can go from our notes a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, well, she was a GP for a start, so she was a doctor that dealt with patients she was actually a research biologist first, I think, and she's quite highly acclaimed in that field as well. She's a very intelligent lady, and she was a GP, and she started noticing, because she had patients that had anxiety disorders, but they weren't, I think back then, because she was born in 1903, and I think back then anxiety disorders weren't very understood, I'm not saying that many people understand them now, but broadly. Yeah. But she sort of developed her own program of treatment for people, because one of the main things that she noticed was that rather than, I think it was that she noticed that her patients did not suffer from these problems because they had flawed personalities or traumatic childhoods. Rather, the problems were caused by the patient having a habit of fear avoidance, made worse or caused by a very responsive or sensitized nervous system. And that's the whole point, isn't it? It was she realized that it was the habit of giving fear to your symptoms of anxiety that actually perpetuated it. And so that's her whole treatment and approach, was to stop avoiding anxiety, basically. Right? I'm right,
yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. And that was really kind of groundbreaking, I think, when she did it. And a lot of this work that she did was in the 50s and 60s, when they were still, she talks about the term nervous illness, and people would, she suffers from nerves, or nerves, nerves, it was nerves. And there was not a lot of good information out there about this particular issue when she started doing her work. And yes, as opposed to doing things like trying to tranquilize people, she really looked at it as a cognitive disorder. And she talks a lot about something called second fear, which is where you're reacting to the first fear, the panic and anxiety fear, with the second fear, and it starts to snowball, and you begin to live your life worried about your next panic attack, and you just become like an exposed nerve where you're constantly on guard for the next one. She talks about all of these things. So we're going to start going through the book chapter by chapter. So what I would urge everybody to do is grab a copy of the book. It's cheap online, and then follow along with us. So we're going to talk about chapter 1 today. And then I would urge you, go ahead and read chapter 1, reference what we're talking about. And then I think we're going to be all about comments. So comment on the video, or at the end, I'll give you my Twitter and all that stuff, so you can reach out, and we'll try and answer questions as we go too. Maybe if we get really technically savvy, I am in the technology business, maybe we could live stream and take calls and stuff too. But oh my God, ooh. I know, right? Crazy. Out of control. Where you're sitting is so awesome looking, by the way. It looks very pretty.
It's nice, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I'm
Yeah.
sitting in my crappy office.
Mallorca's pretty nice.
Yeah, yeah, I'm in my like lousy office on a Sunday afternoon in Long Island, New York. But anyway, all right. So let's get into chapter one of the book. And chapter one, I think, is entitled "The Power Within You."
Power within you.
Yeah, and these are short chapters. The book is really a pretty easy read, and you'd probably eat it up. If you're having anxiety and panic problems, you will eat this book right up. It's a quick read,
Yeah.
and you're going to like it. So, a couple of things I think we wanted to talk about is how she makes a pretty big claim here. In the book, in chapter one, she says, the advice given here will definitely cure you if you follow it, and this will take perseverance and some courage. And that's a pretty big claim, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're reading that when you're right in the middle of like absolute despair. It just seems insane that anyone could have the gall to say that like you will be cured. It's just
Yes.
like as if, man. No
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
You've got no idea how profoundly I suffer, you know.
And I think that's so important because so many of us get in, especially if you're in the thick of things and you feel like I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this, nothing
Yeah.
works. It's really, I think, natural to say, well, this person isn't going to help me. There's no way this is going to help me. But in the end, I mean, I think it does help you. And I think it's important to say, and we'll follow up on the next thing, too. She talks about perseverance and courage is part of it. So she does never sugarcoats it. You're going to have to be brave.
Yeah.
Right? That's just part of it. I know it's the part that everybody hates. It's the sucky part, but it is
But you
what it
get to
is.
feel so good about yourself as well, like because you're just like I'm so brave, man. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
that's nice feeling afterwards. You know, it's difficult to get there, but once you do it, you feel so much more of an achievement as well, as opposed to just oh, I went and saw this person and they hypnotized me and now I'm all better. It's kind of like I took quite a lot of personal gain from realizing that I had the power within me, you know, and that it was me that got me better. I found that quite nice. I was really scared for some reason when I was really ill that like they were going to tell me like it was some physiological like sort of condition and that if I took this tablet I would then be balanced back and be fine. And I didn't really it sounded weird, but like I didn't want someone to be able to come along and like fix it. I quite liked the fact that it was me and I was in control of this, and it just made me feel actually that like yeah, I am in control of this, and
Yeah.
I found that comforting. I think maybe lots of people wouldn't. I don't know why I found that comforting, but you know.
No, I think a lot of people would find it comforting because in the end, I think her approach to this is very empowering because the first few times you have to do this, the first few times you have to do the exact opposite and just chill out into like the worst panic you can imagine. You're like, there's in no way do you want to do that. I mean, in any way do you want to do that, but you will hate doing it, but you will love having done it. So I say that about a lot of hard things in life. I hate going to the gym, but I love having gone to the gym. So
Exactly.
right,
Yeah.
same situation like this. So it is a very empowering thing when you learn how to do this, but it is going to involve being courageous, at least in the beginning. The good news is you don't have to be courageous forever. I always try and throw that out there. You don't have to be like superhero brave for the rest of your life, just in the beginning when you're starting to learn these techniques. So that's really important.
Oh, there's quite a good quote that she has here in the book. She says, I have no illusions about you. Yeah. I'm not writing this book for the rare, few brave people, but for you, a sick, suffering, ordinary human being with no more courage than the rest of us. And I think that's quite important.
That is true, because she honestly believes, I believe it, and I think, Holly, you seem to believe it too, that everybody can actually do this. This isn't magic, and it doesn't require like an insanely brave person. Everybody has the tools built into this. So she makes another really good point in chapter 1, and she talks about time and how long you may have suffered from this. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, there's a nice, I'll just give you a little quote from her. She says, however deeply involved you may be in nervous illness, however long you may have suffered, you can recover and enjoy life again. Like, the time factor isn't important here. It doesn't change you physically. It doesn't matter if you've suffered like for a day or for 10 years or for 50 years, you know, like it actually physically doesn't make a difference to your body, you know, like, and she says, you know, your body is waiting to recover. Like it's there just waiting for you. You just have to, yeah. But, and so like that's I think that's really important, because lots of people would say like, oh, but I've suffered it for so long that it, you know, I can't get better now. But it's important that with this sort of approach, it doesn't actually matter how long you've suffered it or how profoundly you've suffered it. And that's nice to know.
That is true. One of the things you have to kind of embrace a little bit before you get on this journey of this type of methodology is that you really know worse than anyone else. Everybody claims to have the worst possible case of treatment-resistant panic disorder ever.
Yeah.
It's probably not the case. And I think to talk about the time thing, panic disorder, if you look at it, or any anxiety disorder from a cognitive standpoint, if you look at it as a learning situation and a behavioral thing, it doesn't get worse. Like it's not something that gets worse, like, heaven forbid, cancer or something like that, which will spread and get worse and make you sicker. This does not get any worse. At some point, there's a point where it cannot get any worse. If you have gotten to the point where you've stuck yourself in your house and can't leave because of this, that's as bad as it gets. It can't get any worse no matter how long you do that. So
it's almost nice when you hit that point because you just
right.
Literally can't get any worse than this.
That's absolutely true. So whether or not you've only been dealing with it for 6 months or for 16 years, it doesn't matter. You can still get better at this. And part of it is the way you look at it. And so she talks about this as being an illness of how you think. So one of my favorite quotes, like you said, however long you've been ill, your body is waiting to recover. She says, it's important to understand this because your illness is very much an illness of how you think. How you think affects the way you feel. And really, this is kind of the basis of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. So, Holly, you pointed out that she's not saying it's all in your mind. And I know we all hate when people say that. It's not all in your head. But at the same time, it kind of is, because really what fuels panic, the difference between a panic attack, and I've done past episodes on this, a panic attack is a physical thing, but panic disorder is a cognitive thing. So it really is a disorder of how we think and how we react. It's not a disorder that's physical or even some sort of chronic mental illness that needs to be corrected. There's no structural defect in your body or your brain that's causing this. It's purely a learned response. So panic disorder is a learned response. It's just that, that habitual phobic avoidance of what you think is going to hurt you when really it won't.
Yeah, there's a really interesting bit when I was reading a bit about Claire Weeks herself. It said that she suffered herself from panic attacks and panic disorder, and there's some guy who's written, Dr. Robert DuPont describes in his book The Anxiety Cure, that he met her and he asked her if she'd ever had panic disorder, and she said, yes, I have had what you call panic attacks. In fact, I still have them. Sometimes they wake me at night. And Dr. DuPont responded by saying he was sorry to hear that, and then he said that Claire Weeks looked at him sort of in shock and responded well, save your sympathy for somebody else. I don't need it or want it. What you call a panic attack is merely a few normal chemicals that are temporarily out of place in my brain. It is of no significance whatsoever to me. Which is literally the whole point. And it might sound complicated if you at the beginning of this at the minute, but it's that I can still have a panic attack now, but it doesn't actually and as awful as it sounds, that because people might say, oh, you never really can be panic free, but you still might have panic attacks, you just learn to live with them. That doesn't sound very appealing, when you're really suffering from them. But what you start to realize is that a lot of what's so horrible about a panic attack is just the way you respond to it. It's not actually if you actually think about what's happening, it's just oh, I'm sweating and I'm breathing fast and my heart's beating fast and I feel a bit dizzy. It's, you kind of think when you break those symptoms down, it's not actually that horrific. And so if you have a panic attack and you're not responding to it in oh my God, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me way, then those symptoms are just a couple of physical symptoms that are sort of at the wrong time and place, and that's the sort of point of it. I don't know, I've come off track a little bit.
No, that's totally on track, because it really is the basis of how she approaches this. As she calls it an illness of how you think. I would call it cognitive break or a cognitive not dysfunction. I forget. I've used the term a bunch of times. I can't remember my own terms at this point, but yeah, it's really exciting, isn't it? So I think you're right, because in the end, she's going to talk about exactly what you said, that these are just physical sensations, and it's not the sensations. Your heart may beat really rapidly. It may even skip some beats here and there, and she talks about that in the book. It's okay. It's still a perfectly good heart. Your hands may shake, but she literally says your hands may be shaking, but they're still perfectly good hands. So it's your body just doing exactly what your body is supposed to do in the presence of all that adrenaline. We just interpret it as a dangerous thing.
It's funny when you're down the gym and you're running, or if you go for a run or a bike ride or swimming, your heart's beating faster, but you don't go like, "Oh my God, my heart's beating faster. This is what's wrong with me." But when it sort of beats faster out of context, it seems really, in a panic attack, it seems really, really scary. But like, so it's just about taking that fear, because your heart beating fast isn't dangerous. It beats fast all the time if you're doing physical stuff.
That's exactly right.
Like there's nothing dangerous about a beating heart, a heart that's beating fast. So it's just putting it in context and like changing the way you react to it, basically.
That's true. It is all about the reaction. So I think the takeaway really in chapter 1 of the book, and again, it's a really short chapter, which is great because it's easy to read. Where she talks about that it's an illness of how you think, that everybody can be cured by it, which I know is a cured from it or overcome it, which is really a big, bold claim. But, there's a lot of stuff in here. It doesn't matter how long you've suffered. And once you start to adopt this approach, you can actually start to turn the corner. So that's really the basis of chapter 1 of the book, is that the answer really lies within you, understanding what this is and how you are going to approach it and start to change how you react to it. So this is not Claire Weeks saving you. It's not Holly saving you. It's not me saving you. It's not a coloring book saving you or a call to your mom or your boyfriend saving you. It's you saving you.
Yeah.
Right? So we talk about a lot, like you have to learn to be your own safe person, and that's what this book is all about. It starts to explain how that can happen. So that's chapter 1. It's a short one. Next time we'll do chapter 2. Do you have anything else you'd like to add to this, Holly?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered everything that we wanted to, or what was in the chapter 1. So yeah.
Yep, I think so too. So chapter 2 is the episode we'll do next, and we're not even quite sure how often we're going to do these things. We're hoping like maybe every other week when we can squeeze it into our schedule. But chapter 2, a little preview, is called How Our Nervous System Works, and she does talk a little bit about, without getting into a lot of real technical details, she does talk about how your nervous system works and creates these sensations that we experience when we're experiencing anxiety or panic. And it's a really good overview because she really works hard to demystify what's going on. She's all about
knowledge is power.
Exactly. Here. She was huge in that. Not being bewildered. She uses the term bewildered and confused all the time, and she really tries to take that away. So next time we're going to talk about that. So anything you wanted to say to wrap it up?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I would say this is going to get published all over the place. So it'll be on my website, thatanxietyguy.com, and I guess on my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel, so it'll be there. You can comment on the blog page itself, on the blog site itself. You can comment on YouTube. Twitter is @thatanxietyguy, and Facebook is that anxiety guy also. So, Holly, would you like people to reach out to you? Do you just want to go through this way, or we'll work that out as we go along? Comments are always welcome.
We'll work it out, but comments definitely, and like especially if I just wanted to say that, like, I think that us do it. The reason I wanted to podcast this is because when I was really like ill at the beginning, I was young as well, but like my dad said to me, who had a bit of experience with this stuff, he gave me the book and was just like, you need to read this, like this is important, like you'll see that you're not alone and all this sort of stuff. And this was before the internet, and I was so scared to read. I didn't want to open the book because it felt so intimidating to like sit on my own and read a book, and I didn't know what was inside it. I didn't know what it was going to tell me, and I just was really scared about reading it. And so I know that might sound strange, but when you're like really in the thick of it, it can seem very intimidating to read a self-help book, or and you don't know if it really is gonna sort of what it's going to tell you and stuff. So like that's why I thought it'd be nice, because it's like we're all having a conversation about the book. You're not on your own having to read it, like it's just a nicer way to get it out there. But I really recommend getting the book as well. And
hold it up again. I have it on Kindle. Hold it up so people can see it. That's the book. You'll find it on Amazon. It's crazy cheap. It's in the US it's like $6 or $7. There are even people selling used copies of it.
I don't know if you have this in America, but in Britain I use a website called Books, ABE, abebooks.co.uk, and every book is like 90p. Wow. And it's like £1 postage or something like that. And I got that off Abe Books. Like it's all secondhand books, but they're just so cheap.
It doesn't matter. The books are all kind of old. They've been out for a long time. And I've actually been in contact with her estate, Dr. Weeks' estate. It's her nieces, I believe, in Australia that still are the administrators of the estate. Cool. They are just really helpful people. They love having the stuff out there. I mean, it's crazy cheap for really, really good, solid advice as opposed to some of the other stuff I've seen where some programs are very expensive and really kind of based on what she's talking about anyway. So it's worth it. Check out the book if you don't have it. And there's audiobooks. She has recordings. It's all really cheap, and I would urge you to try it all. So, all right, I guess we're going to wrap it up, yes?
Yes, cool.
So much fun. We're going to do it again next time.
Yeah, nice.
Okay.
One.
All right, guys. See you next time.
Cheers.
Hey, what's up, guys? Drew here. In the 5 years that I've done the podcast, I've never had a sponsor. But now it's time for me to put in a little plug for the day job, the business that I own. And that business is managed WordPress hosting. So if you have a website and it runs WordPress, and you'd like WordPress hosting that makes WordPress faster, more secure, and way easier than you ever imagined it would be, then check out Helix. You can find us online at imhelix.com. That's IAMHELIX.com. We took a long time to build Helix. I'm super proud of it. It works spectacularly. We take really good care of our customers, and I promise we would take really good care of you too. So if you're in the market for WordPress hosting that will blow your mind, check out Helix. I would appreciate the consideration. I thank you for coming by and listening, and I'll see you the next time.